The smell of burnt sourdough was a smell of failure. Lena Vasquez scraped the charcoal crust into the trash, her reflection wavering in the chrome of the industrial oven. It was 3 a.m. in Portland, Oregon. Her hands were cracked from flour and dish soap. Her apron was stained with 3 years of hope that had curdled into exhaustion. At 29, Lena had bet everything on sugar and spite. Her tiny bakery in a forgotten strip mall. The problem wasn't her baking. Her salted caramel croissants were divine. The problem was Leo Hart, her landlord. Leo owned half the block. He was a jolly man in cheap suits who smelled of negotiation and bad cologne. For 2 years, he had raised her rent every quarter, claiming property tax increases. Last month, he had added a bogus maintenance fee of $800. "You signed the lease, sweetheart," Leo said that afternoon, leaning on her display case. His eyes didn't see her pastries. They saw a weak link. Pay up or get out. "My profit margin is 4%, Lena said, her voice trembling. "You know I can't afford this." "Not my problem." Leo flicked a crumb off the glass. "There's a yoga studio that wants this space. They can pay." That night, Lena sat on her apartment floor, a studio above the bakery she could barely afford, and cried. She had no family. Her mother had passed 2 years ago. Her father was a ghost. She had poured her inheritance into ovens and mixers. Now she owed $14,000 in back fees, plus next month's rent. She opened her laptop. Her bank account, $212. Her credit card, maxed. Her dreams, crumbling like a bad meringue. She was alone. The next morning, a note was taped to her front door. "Your back door was open last night. The storm is coming. I fixed the latch. E." Lena frowned. The back door led to the alley, which was shared with the art studio next door, a dusty space that had been empty for 6 months. But last week, she had seen lights on. Someone had moved in. She knocked on the studio door at 7 a.m., clutching a box of day-old muffins. A man answered. He was tall, maybe 32, with paint under his fingernails and tired eyes. His T-shirt was splattered with ochre and crimson. His dark hair was a mess. "Yeah," he said. "You fixed my door," Lena said. "Thank you. I brought muffins." The man, Eli, blinked. Then his serious face cracked into a small smile. "I like banana nut. That's all I have." "Then you're a mind reader." He invited her in. The studio was chaos. Canvases stacked against walls, the smell of turpentine, a single cot in the corner. Eli was a painter, newly returned to Portland after his wife left him for a real estate developer in Austin. 3 years married, he said, handing her a cup of terrible instant coffee. She said I was too unstable. Too poor. Too artist. Lena laughed bitterly. "I know that feeling. My landlord says I'm too inconvenient." They talked for 2 hours. Lena learned that Eli's work was beautiful. Dark, emotional landscapes of storms and empty chairs. He sold one painting every 6 months. Just enough to survive. He was not rich. He was not connected. But he was kind. "You're a good baker," he said, finishing his 3rd muffin. "I'm a bankrupt baker." "Then we match. I'm a bankrupt painter." For the first time in months, Lena laughed. It felt like breaking a bone back into place 0.1 week later. Leo found out Eli was living in the studio. He stormed into Lena's bakery at noon, cheeks red. "That artist is a squatter," Leo snarled. "His lease expired yesterday. I'm doubling his rent or evicting him by Friday." "You can't do that," Lena said, though she knew he could. "Watch me." That night, Lena told Eli. He went pale. "I have no money," he said quietly. "My ex-wife took everything. I was sleeping in my car before this place." Lena looked at her ledger, her debt, her fear. Then she looked at the man who had fixed her door without being asked. "We fight," she said. "How?" She pulled out her phone. The local news runs Small Business Watch segments. We tell them the truth. Leo roared into the bakery the next morning with a camera crew behind him. He had brought his own lawyer, a thin woman with sharp glasses and a sharper smile. "You're violating your lease," Leo said. "Subletting to an unauthorized tenant." "He's not a tenant," Lena said. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. He's my business partner. We share utilities. It's in the amended lease I sent you last week. You sent nothing. I have a receipt. She held up a certified mail slip. You signed for it on Tuesday. The camera swung to Leo. His face twitched. The lawyer whispered in his ear. Leo's bluff had crumbled, but Lena wasn't done. And while we're here, she said, pulling out a thick folder, these are your legal rent increases. 7 of them in 18 months. The state limit is 2. I've already filed a complaint with the Rental Housing Commission. The color drained from Leo's face. The segment ran that evening. By morning, Leo's office was flooded with calls from other tenants he had cheated. Within a month, he sold the building to avoid a lawsuit. The new owner? A cooperative formed by the tenants themselves, with Lena and Eli as founding members. With the rent stabilized, Lena could finally breathe. Eli stayed in the studio. But now, he painted during the day and helped her in the bakery at dawn. He learned to knead dough without complaint. He designed new labels for her pastry boxes, little sketches of her croissants with wings. You make them look magical, Lena said. They are magical, he replied. You just forgot. On a rainy Tuesday, Eli set up an easel in the bakery window. He painted customers as they ordered. The line stretched down the block. Someone posted a video. Artist paints portraits for a free muffin. It got 2 million views. Tides are turning. Lena whispered that night, watching her online orders explode. Eli took her hand. His were rough from turpentine and flour. No, you turned them. I just held the door. She kissed him. It was soft, hesitant, like the first bite of a perfect pastry. He kissed her back. It tasted like sugar and second chances 1 year later. Lena and Eli stood in the bakery at midnight, rolling out dough for the next morning's rush. I have news, Lena said. Good news. I burned the croissants. News? She put her hand over her stomach. Good news. The best. Eli froze. His eyes went wide. Then he laughed, a real full laugh, and swept her into his arms. You're serious? I'm pregnant. He set her down gently, as if she were made of spun sugar. Then he knelt right there on the flour-dusted floor. Lena Vasquez, he said, pulling a paintbrush from his pocket. Not a ring, just a paintbrush, because that was Eli. Marry me. Let's build something that doesn't burn. She cried. She laughed. She said yes. They married in the bakery, under fairy lights strung between the ovens. The guests ate croissant wedding cake. Eli painted their portrait live, capturing Lena's smile, his tears, and the tiny, beating heart of their future. Their son, Mateo, was born in August. He arrived during a heat wave, screaming with lungs that promised a life of passion. Lena held him in the bakery at 3 a.m., the ovens warm, Eli asleep on a flour sack nearby. She looked at her son's face, so small, so perfect, and remembered the woman who had stood in the same spot 2 years ago, bankrupt and alone. She whispered to Mateo, never be afraid to knead the dough again, and never accept less than your worth. The bakery became a landmark. Eli's are hung on every wall, each piece telling a story of struggle and sweetness. Mateo learned to walk holding onto a bag of sugar. Their second child, Rosa, was born 2 years later, a girl with her mother's stubborn chin and her father's quiet eyes. They were not rich. They were not famous. But every morning, Lena opened the door to a line of customers who had become friends. Every night, Eli kissed her forehead and said, we did good. And they had. Epilogue, the last batch. On their 15th anniversary, Lena closed the bakery early. Eli set up 2 chairs on the sidewalk. They watched the rain fall on Portland, drinking hot chocolate from chipped mugs. Do you ever regret it? Eli asked. Regret what? Trusting me, a strange artist who fixed your door. Lena leaned her head on his shoulder. You didn't fix my door. You fixed my life. In the window, a small painting hung, a single croissant with golden wings. Beneath it, in Eli's handwriting. For Lena, who taught me that the best things rise from the darkest places. The rain fell, the streetlights glowed, and 2 people who'd been broken by the world held each other, whole at last. The end.